When talking about Africa and African leadership system, it's more or less a system totally dominated and controlled by those whose age is at minimum of 50, having the majority above 60 years of their age.
Africa has some of the world's oldest and longest serving heads of state. These men have so much experience that they can do all this head of stating and presidenting thing, even in their sleep.
What if I told you African countries gain independence through the effort of young heroes, or perhaps icons whose story will never be forgotten in the heart of Africans? And what we see today is actually nothing but the reverse. Four youngest African presidents and how they meet their tragic endings. The last one will surprise you for being the world's youngest head of state, and most likely you are older than him. We will begin with Samwe Does. Samwe Does became Liberia's president at the age of 28. Samwe Does' regime in Liberia began in 1980 after he led a military coup against President William L. Torbert. Does, who was a master sergeant in the armed forces of Liberia, became the first non-American Liberian leader of Liberia. Ending 133 years of americo-liberian rule, he suspended the Constitution of Liberia and established the People's Redemption Council (PRC) as a proficient military government with himself as the head of state. He dissolved the PRC in 1984 and attempted to legitimize his rule by introducing a new democratic constitution and holding the general election in 1985. Although he won the election with 51% of the vote, the election was widely criticized for being fraudulent. Does opened Liberian ports to Canadian, Chinese, and European ships, which brought in considerable foreign investment and earned Liberia's reputation as a tax haven. Does had support from the United States due to his anti-Soviet stance during the Cold War. The First Liberian Civil War began in December 1989 when the Antidote National Patriotic Front of Liberia, NPFL, led by Charles Taylor, invaded Liberia from the Ivory Coast to overthrow him. Does was captured and executed by Prince Johnson on 9 September 1990. He was brutally tortured to death. Muammar Gaddafi assumed power in Libya at the age of 27 in 1969. Gaddafi became an Arab nationalist while at school in Sabha, later enrolling in the Royal Military Academy, Benghazi. Within the military, he founded a revolutionary group which deposed the Western-backed Senussi monarchy of Idris in a 1969 coup. Having taken power, Gaddafi converted Libya into a republic governed by his Revolutionary Command Council. Ruling by decree, he deported Libya's Italian population and ejected its Western military bases. Strengthening ties to Arab nationalist governments, particularly Gamal Abdel Nasser's Egypt, unsuccessfully advocated pan-Arab political union. An Islamic modernist, he introduced Sharia as the basis for the legal system and promoted Islamic socialism. He nationalized the oil industry and used the increasing state revenues to bolster the military, fund foreign revolutionaries, and implement social programs emphasizing house building, healthcare, and education projects. However, Gaddafi was overthrown and killed by rebel forces in 2011. Amid the 2011 Arab Spring, protests against widespread corruption and unemployment broke out in eastern Libya. The situation descended into civil war, in which NATO intervened militarily on the side of the anti-Gaddafist National Transitional Council. He retreated to Sirte, only to be captured, tortured, and killed by NTC militants. The events were filmed on a mobile phone. A video appears to picture Gaddafi being poked or stabbed in the anus with some kind of stick or knife. Pulled onto the front of a pickup truck, he fell off as it drove away. His semi-naked body was then placed into an ambulance and taken to Misrata. Upon arrival, he was found to be dead. Sadly, official NTC accounts claim that Gaddafi was caught in a crossfire and died from bullet wounds. Other eyewitness accounts claim that rebels had fatally shot Gaddafi in the stomach. His corpse was placed in the freezer of a local market alongside the corpses of Yunus Jabir and Mutassim. The bodies were publicly displayed for 4 days, with Libyans from all over the country coming to view them. Footage of Gaddafi's death was broadcast extensively across media networks internationally. On 25 October, the NTC announced that Gaddafi had been buried at an unidentified location in the desert. Valentine Strasser was a former Sierra Leone military officer. He became the head of state of Sierra Leone in 1992 following a military coup. He was 25 years old at the time, making him the world's youngest head of state, leading 4 million people.
Make it my responsibility to ensure that if any of my ministers or any of my officials should want to do things contrary to the aims and objectives of this cause, then my government will leave no stone unturned in pursuing these issues.
Strasser's regime, known as the National Provisional Ruling Council, MPRC, was characterized by a military government that ruled the country from 1992 to 1996. During his tenure, Strasser implemented several measures aimed at stabilizing the country after years of civil war. He established a new government structure and introduced the cabinet at the Council of States. However, Strasser's regime faced significant challenges, including the ongoing civil war and economic instability. The war, which began in 1991, was fought between the Babylonian government and the Revolutionary United Front, RUF, a rebel group led by Faure Sanko. The conflict led to widespread human rights abuses and significant economic damages to the country. Strasser left office in 1996 after a military coup by his deputy, Julius Maada Bio. After loss of power, he faced different sort of challenges which forced him to escape by fleeing to Banjul, the capital of Gambia. But there he met more of the same. He was beaten up at a nightclub by relatives of some of the innocent people executed at the beach in 1992. Things turned sour when the Gambian authorities accused him of fomenting another coup. He was arrested and deported back to London, where he was refused re-entry. At this point, there was nowhere left to go. The then President Ahmed Tijan Kaba granted him amnesty to return home. He was given some dignity to feel human again on his return home. Today, he lives with his mother and spends days drinking gin by the roadside. We then transition to another hero among the youngest head of state of African countries, Jerry Rawlings John. Jerry John assumes power in Ghana at the age of 32 through a military coup in 1979. Rawlings was part of the Free Africa movement, an underground movement of military officers who wanted to unify Africa through a series of coups. Rawlings came to power in Ghana as a flight lieutenant of the Ghana Air Force following a coup d'etat in 1979. Prior to that, he led an unsuccessful coup attempt against the ruling military government on Tuesday, 15th May 1979, just 5 weeks before scheduled democratic elections were due to take place. After handing power over to a civilian government, he overthrew the democratically elected government through a military coup on Thursday, 31st December 1981, as the chairman of the Provisional National Defense Council, PNDC. In 1992, Rawlings resigned from the military, founded the National Democratic Congress, NDC, and became the first president of the Fourth Republic. He was re-elected in 1996 for 4 more years. After 2 terms in office, the limit according to the Ghanaian constitution, Rawlings endorsed his vice president John Atta Mills as a presidential candidate in 2000. He died on 12 November 2020 at Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital in Accra, a week after having been admitted for a short-term illness in Ghana. According to some reports, his death was caused by complications from COVID-19. His death came nearly 2 months after that of his mother, Victoria Agbo Tui, on 24 September 2020.